got our experiments set up. Um, so that's Schluter all set over Ardex 8+9 on top of a Curdy board with glass tile. And tomorrow morning we'll peel one off and see how it goes. Same as before. I kind of expect it's going to do the same thing. It's going to be just fine, and then the other three will just peel up because we said we would. But well, I mean, we'll find out. For all we know, the Ardex screws us over. I mean, considering that they advertise you can tile over the Ardex after 90 minutes, right? So like I could put another coat down on this pan and say screw leak testing, and then just start putting floor tile down, but I'm not going to do that. We're going to test it. So what I'm going to do is I got a foam roller. I'm going to try that out and see how I like it. I'm going to start by putting a patch just a little bit with a chip brush over those 3 pinholes and kind of let it set up a little bit while I roll this section of wall, and then come back and hit it again. Just kind of try to build that up a little bit. And then, yeah, we'll see how this roller does. So, yeah, put a little bit over it. I don't see any holes now. We'll kind of let it go. And we're gonna build up quite a bit there. It's not gonna be so much that it makes the floor wavy, right? It just doesn't go on that thick. But having at least 2 coats over those holes, and then do a third coat over the whole pan, maybe just up to the ridge. I think that'll do it, and we can flood test it again. But let's see. So with foam roller, it doesn't even spin. Needs more weight on it. It'll probably spin when it gets up on the wall. So I just want to see, is it going to make these crappy looking lines that I don't like, right? Kind of. They're not as raised. That really puts it on thin. So like, look at that compared to that. I don't know how I feel about that. So maybe foam roller's not the way. Maybe we'll just, well, I don't push so hard. It's certainly easier than brushing. Easier on my hands, that's for sure. Maybe we just get a big glob on here and then kind of spread it out. But look how it kind of leaves a bare line. Like use the tip to push it in. I don't know. I think because of how thick this stuff is, I feel like I'm better off brushing it on. Like I look at this, I mean, maybe it's more even, right? This has a lot thicker spots. You know what, I'm gonna do this whole section with the roller, because we can always brush over it if we don't like the results. But I wonder if it's worth cutting in edges, right? So like, if I take the brush and just kind of get along here, make sure it's right up against that seam, since we're kind of worried about that from the performance down here, right? Make sure there's plenty of material pushed up in that area. And then now if we get a big old glob on the roller, I like that. I can live with that. So maybe we'll hit any of the seam edges with the brush just to make sure there's stuff in there, and then we'll do the bulk area with the roller. Because really, like this spot, right? Why are we even bothering with that? It's already waterproof, right? So we're gonna smear this stuff on there when it's really not even necessary. So maybe if we just do an overlap anywhere there's a curdy band, we get another couple inches outside the band, kind of how like this one looks, right? And now they're going to get really close to each other. So I don't know, maybe it's not worth the skipping parts, but I don't know that's necessarily worth. Well, let's try it. Let's do these last 4 the same way we did that, kind of leaving patches. And I bet that we're going to be able to move quickly and get this stuff over almost every seam on the wall. Yeah, I think this is the way to go. I got some junk there that had built up before I rolled it, so we'll go over. We're going to do another coat on all these anyway, and before we do that final coat, we'll knock down some high spots. But yeah, I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to do all the seams, patch it in like this, and it's Curdy board. It's already waterproof. Should be fine. Should be. If we have a ton of Ardex left over after we're done with the niches and things like that, maybe we'll just roll on more. But yeah, I'm starting to not worry so much about it. I mean, the walls, it's going to take a lot, right? We'd have to put the house underwater to get it to come through that at this point. So doing it that way, I ended up ditching the roller and just going with the brush. I like how it goes on better. Kind of guarantees I get these edges nice. So you can see like kind of the roll-on stuff, and it just looks thinner. Even when you brush it on first, it thins out those edges. And then the brushed spots, I don't know. I feel better about them. I was able to get everything but the top of this, those three, and those two. And I kind of skimped out on some of the places here because I know we're going to cut it out for the niche. And go back over it. So material wise, we still have more than half. So I think what we'll do is we'll get the niches built, right? Because this is the amount of board we have left, because I screwed up one and then I screwed up the second one again, but not the same way. So at least I'm not doing it the wrong way twice. So I'll cut out another one of those and then see how tall we can make the second one with what's left. So we don't want it too tall, right? We want it tall, but not just gigantic, because she needs to be able to reach stuff. So we can always make it shorter, right? We can't make it bigger if we cut it too short. So yeah, we'll just do the one, and then next time we're both in the house at the same time, I'll see how she feels about the size of the other one. Also, here's perfect timing for it, right? Is when they talk about stuff skinning over and having the tile not stick. So like when we set these in, this was nice and moist and everything kind of came together, right? Well, now, like, look at this ridge. I can push my finger down on it and it'll take the shape. Like, I push it down, but nothing sticks to me. It's not tacky at all. So if you set something there, it might stick to it, but it's not really, it's not bonding, right? Whereas if I scrape into it a little bit and get through that skin, well, now it's sticky, right? Now it's sticking to my finger again. So that's when people say if something's skinned over or not. That's what you're looking at. That didn't take long either, maybe an hour. So what happened last time is I had the left-right correct, right? We want 8 5/8, because when we fold our edges up, 1/2 inch on each side makes 9 5/8, which is the exact width between those studs. And then we want our ends to overlap and fold up. Well, what I did is I had measured up for the 1/2 inch so that, just like I did on the sides, but what that did is it made the face of this too far up. We want the face of it, we want the lip to line up with the grout lines of the tile. So I just needed to make it an inch taller, which you can't. It's difficult to add material like that and have it make any sense, especially such a small amount. So we're just going to cut out a new one. We should have plenty of space for the upper niche left on that piece of scrap. And this time, instead of measuring it, I'm going to actually set those tiles on, because this is the size we want it. We want the bottom, right? So there's going to be an 1/8 inch grout line. We want that grout line lined up. So if the bottom edge of this down is going to be that 1/8 of an inch. So we really want this tile like dead nuts to the bottom of that. Yeah, well, no, because what we can do is when we put the tiles on the back of the niche, right, we're going to want expansion area, right? We need an 1/8 of an inch for expansion with caulk in it and not grout at all these edges. So when this goes in, it's just a matter of shaving an 1/8 of an inch off of one side of the tile. So when we go through and do wall stuff, we can look for like ones that have chips, out of them, and we can take that chip off and hide it in the back of our niche or in the top of our niche, wherever. So yeah, let me set these over. Okay, so here we go. It comes across the wall. We lined up perfectly with the bottom, and that bottom will be where the edge of our round stuff is this way. So we'll have that big lip here covering up tile. So whatever we do cut out, this is going to be just fine. But this guarantees, because we're spaced exactly how we are on the wall, that if I make a mark, so we're marked out, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this part, and then instead of having the bottom fold up and butt up against the sides, we're going to have the sides butt up against the bottom, so I can put a trim screw through and kind of give it a little extra support when we glue it together, so it's not just the glue holding it up, with something physical in there. So yeah, cut it out. We'll do these lines completely so that the sides snap in. Then we can cut out our corners and do the line to snap our bottom, and we want to leave a 1/2 inch here so that it lines up with itself. So okay, so here we are, cut the shape. Our two sides snapped. So I'm cutting, about 3/4 of the way through the foam so that it snaps really easy. And then this will be the inside of the niche. So we have these whole entire walls that we won't need to worry about waterproofing and having buildup and all that kind of stuff. We'll only have to worry about these little corners where we glue it together with the Curdy Fix. So next step, we want these bottom ones to snap up, but we don't want this edge, right, to be up here. We want it to be down further. So we're going to go ahead and cut these lines, cut these so we can snap the bottom up, and then we'll go ahead and lop these corners off. Okay, so we got our corners trimmed down. It's scored on the back side along that line. There it goes. Yeah. So there's our edges. These fold up, and this one kind of separated a little bit, so we'll just have to make sure that it stays square when we put it together. It's not really a huge deal. So, but here's your final product. Is get that glued and tacked together, and then what I'd like to do, I'll wait and do until I have the other niche ready as well. But once these are Curdy fixed in place with a couple trim screws in them just for a little extra support, then we'll go ahead and mix up some Ardex. We'll do 2 coats of Ardex on the inside of these as well, and then take them, flood test them, right? Set them up like this. We'll fill them up with water and just make sure that they're not leaking out of these corners at all before we install them in the wall. There we go. So I went ahead and trimmed these edges to their 1/2 inch mark. So even though this was the one that was worse, it has this big radius where it kind of separated. The membrane is still waterproof. This is how it works. But now we have a reference. So we line this up and say, oh, that here needs to go in. We can we'll get it in place, and we'll glue it, hold it in place with the screws. It'll set up and everything will be just fine. But essentially, so roughly, there's a wall niche. So it's been 24 hours approximately, right? We're not being too specific. And same thing, this stuff really hardened up nice. Only difference between last time is this has got the Ardex underneath it, right? So I can already tell we're probably not going to really need to do one each day. I think they're all cured up now. We'll do a double check anyway. So I'm trying to get under the tile only and give it a peel. Holy cow. I can't even get it to peel up. So I think I broke the tile. I broke glass off the tile. I don't think that it's going to peel up the same way. I think it's because I think the Ardex is adhered well enough that it's got a much bigger surface area that it's trying to peel on. So while the thin set cracks apart, this Ardex is a little flexible and it doesn't crack. So I think that makes me feel like this, right? How the way we have some of the fleece coming apart. This makes me wonder if, you know, maybe this actually bonded better than the thin set. Really, right? Maybe that's why the back, remember how the back was glossy, right? So if this back's all shiny, maybe it's because it pulled way more fleece off. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but yeah, this is rowdy. I can't get that tile up. I don't want to shoot glass all over the room. You can see, I can see it trying to peel up. Like come on. Yeah, oh, just chipped the glass again. So that's awesome. I don't know if we'll cheat a little, huh? Yeah, so that's what it is that Ardex is flexible. Look at that, holy shit. So, yeah, maybe I had a pinhole, right? But this stuff is amazing. Like, look at how well that's stuck. That's crazy. Because it had already separated this foam from me prying on it, you know, and I cut it. You can tell. Look right here. See how it's separated? Right? That wouldn't be separated if it's separated after I cut through with the razor blade. So this Ardex is flexible enough. It bonds really well, and it's flexible enough that it's peeling up huge area around this instead of cracking like the thin set does. So I'm really happy with that. Now it is tempting to roll the whole wall. How nice would it be to have that layer on? Because now, like, that sticks even better than thin set by itself. It just plain does. Yeah. So we were talking last night about niche sizes, so I figured a little bit of permanent marker is not going to hurt anything. It's not going to get pushed really hard, but so we'll do single niche down there, and then she wants this one to be just double the size, which is perfect because that's about all the material that we have. So this will give us enough to make a double of that size niche. Yeah, so it really will do double in the effect of double the amount of tiles themselves. So it'll be twice as big as that plus an eighth for the grout. We'll measure it with tiles like I did that one so that we know it's right. Here's the practice niche that was the wrong size. And these are stainless steel screws I use on the exterior to hold like plastic molding on the side of the house, you know, the stuff you don't have to paint. So we're going to go ahead and fold this up and drive one in, and then just kind of see if it makes stuff bulge out, if it holds well, because really all it needs to do is keep the stuff together while the sealant's drying, and it'll also help hopefully give it a little bit of structure that might not even be necessary, but I like the idea. So that actually grips into the foam way better than I thought it would. I didn't think it would be able to, you know, squish itself so much, and it doesn't bulge out. And it really, I mean, this corner, I can push on it, and I'm sure if I really went ape, it would move. It would, you know, it's only as strong as the foam is, but I feel good about that. I think if I do our Curdy fix in between here, then screws to hold it together to keep it at the angle we want. Yeah, and then we'll get the other one built, you know, with our scrap piece over there, and then we'll coat these in Ardex and flood test them before we actually put them in the wall. But I think once I build them, I can put them in the wall and start measuring up for where the second one's going to be. So you know, measure 400 times, cut once, because you can only get it right. I guess the absolute worst case scenario, if I screw it up, would be to shim. Like I could add a half inch, right? I could put another piece of Curdy board or anything waterproof that tile will stick to, you know, and I could change some of it, but we don't want to have to do that. We want to make sure it's right the first time. got both the niches cut and ready with their overlaps. I got some stainless steel screws, and I cut open a tube of the Curdy Fix. Now, like I said, I bought 3 tubes of the stuff, and I don't remember why. I guess I thought I'd need more of it. I don't know. So it's is what it is. It's probably figure out. Maybe I'll look up the MSDS on it, or I guess that's MDS, material safety sheet, MDS, material data safety. I don't remember. They changed the name, but I know it as MSDS. So you can look up on there, and it might tell us what chemicals are actually in that. Compare it to some other product, and I'll know what else I can use it for. That does say single component Silane modified polymer base, so it's probably silicone acrylic. It's just caulk, right? It's caulk with an orange label that costs more. So yeah, let's I'm gonna do the seams and then screw it together to hold it, and then I'll mix up some Ardex so I can do another coat on a dirty shower pan. We'll vacuum this up, and then I can coat those as well. Okay, so I used quite a bit more than I'll need, but I can always just scrape out the extra, and we'll be putting that Ardex on top anyway, which will build up a bit of a layer. So given what happened with our little pinhole, I don't want to use too little, right? Bigger the glob, better the job. Okay, wiped away all the extra in those corners. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I like it. Got 2 screws in each one to make sure that those came out right, because our cuts aren't perfect, right? But the lines are. So you can see this line pretty much centered on that, and then oh, it's not quite centered on that side. It's gonna be crooked. We'll make that the top, because this one's good. So yeah, and there's a little wiggle room too. So because we're gonna be building up, and we'll put our trim piece in, and we'll make sure all that's square. So it'll just be a little bit thicker thin set on one side of that, because I can't really. Well, I could pull the screws out and put them in right next to each other, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to start compressing the foam even more, but this thing already feels really good. I will do the other one up, and then I'm not going to worry about cutting the holes today, so we're starting to run short on time, working all weekend. So I'd rather get another coat on here and get a coat in these guys so I can start flood testing them soon. Okay, so 2 niches. This one, I sloped the bottom, so I kind of want to, well, yeah, I'll mark the back, right? So if I'm going to coat these, I can't really mark them if I'm going to coat them. But at least now, when I go to install them, on that side up, and then, oh, what did I do on this guy? Level. It's this one. So, yeah, this way up. Good. So now water will drain out of them the right way. Cool. I think, yeah, I got plenty of time. Vacuum this out, knock down any high spots, because there's a couple drips that I missed, and they're just sticking up and gross. We don't want that. So we'll do a little sanding, vacuum it out, and get another coat on the whole thing. So I went a little thinner even this time. Instead of 26 ounces liquid and 24 ounces powder, stuck with the 24 ounces powder and did 28 ounces liquid this time, because kind of as we're going along here, I'm feeling like we're not using nearly as much liquid as we are powder. Their instructions are to mix it all at once, but we're not using that much at once, so we kind of have to wing it. And I think the mix has been fine. You can do different ratios anyway, so we'll just see how this one lays out. Do the niches first, get a coat on them. I want to knock out these last couple sections of banding, because that shouldn't take very much material. And then we'll start doing the pan and see if we have enough left over to do a second coat on those as it's skinning over. They say to wait 45 minutes between coats. If we have to, we'll do another coat tomorrow before we test them. Okay, before my battery dies, to recap, we did all our little blocks the other day, and we put a layer down just over the pinholes to get a little build up there. And today I did these first so that they would skin over enough to get a second coat on at the end, which we did. I went back over some of the seams and blocks on the lower half, especially around the valve area where we're going to cut out for the niches to make sure there's enough buildup on those. Whole third coat on the pan, which makes a total of 4 coats. 4 coats where the pinholes are. 2 coats with holes in them, 2 coats hopefully without. So we'll let this set up, and then tomorrow morning we'll fill it. We'll give it 24 hours. We'll do another 24-hour flood test, and if that one passes, we'll be moving on. I think even when this stuff was set up, if I stepped on it like with socks or with shoes, like the stuff would stick to it, right? Like parts of the wool would come off the socks. So I'd really like to get the floor tiled, not grouted, just tiled, and then get the cardboard over it before I start doing all kinds of wall stuff. I don't want to stand on this anymore. I don't want to put any more dents in it, right, with my toes and things like that. And I'm afraid if I just put cardboard on it and walk around that the cardboard's actually going to stick to the material. So, yep, that's where we are.